Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting, the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for October 20th, 2016. First order of business, if you have a cell phone, if you would silence it, we would appreciate that very, very much. First item on the agenda is receipt of the minutes of the October 6th meeting. Do we have enough people to do that? I guess we do.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive the minutes of the October 6th meeting of the Board of Adjustment. Would you cast your votes, please? And they are received. We don't have a consent agenda today, or that I'm aware of, any continuances.
No continuances today.
So we'll just plunge right into items requiring separate vote.
Item number 1, case number 14224, request of Thomas Crabtree for a variance to allow 4 properties without frontage to a public or private road in the AA Agricultural District located at 12801 West Britton Road.
If you give us your name and address for the record, please, and tell us about your item.
Good afternoon, Mark Grubbs, Grubbs Consulting, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. The case before you today has been before you before a couple months ago, I believe. But what's happening here is we're requesting a variance to the requirement to have access to a public or private street. The interior of this property has been subdivided into 6 different parcels that are 5 acres or more, and there's an existing gated entry and very good condition gravel road within this. Only 4 of those parcels actually would not meet the requirement of the frontage on a public or private street. That would be the 4 interior parcels. When we met with you before on this, there were no issues brought forward by the board, but we did have a protester at the time, Mr. Ed Abel, which adjoined the to the east and west, and his concern was just that his cattle could travel back and forth to and from his property and to the ponds located on the property. We've met multiple times. An agreement has been reached between them. An email was even shot to staff stating that all their issues have been resolved and they would not be present to object to this. So we just asked for your approval.
Can I ask if there's anybody else here today that wished to be heard on this matter? Members of the board?
My recollection is that Mr. Abel's concerns and that you all were going to meet, and as long as those differences have been resolved and there's an agreement that's enforced between the parties, if there's no other discussion, I'd make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 1, case number 14224. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries.
Item number 2, case number 14236, request of Anthony Peterson for a variance to the requirement that a minimum 80% of the front facade of a building shall be built within 10 feet of the right-of-way in the C4 General Commercial District Urban Design Overlay located at 2208 Northwest 23rd Street. Also, this was approved at the Urban Design Commission.
Is the applicant present?
I do have one question while the applicant's approaching. The email of October 19th from John that gave us the revised, corrected information, is this reflected of what Urban Design, did they have the correct information when they approved this application?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Could you give us your name and address for the record, please, and tell us about your application?
Anthony Peterson, Edmond, Oklahoma. This is Jimmy John's building we've been working on with the Urban Design Committee. We came to this layout as you have before you. We had a couple of revisions that we had to make to fulfill the requirement that they wanted as far as like frontage and friendliness to the pedestrians on that road. We basically need the 80%. We're slightly off of that 10-foot building line setback. I'm not sure what kind of questions you guys have on it, but that's what we're asking for, a variance on that, so we can have enough room on that side for a driving lane for a drive-through as well.
Let me ask first, is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter today? I'll tell you, I have some concerns about this application. They're not very specifically tied, however, to the setback issues, other than the fact that if the setback were enforced, as it is written, they would not be permitted to put a drive-through at this location, and frankly, I have some concerns about there being a drive-through at this location, but it's a very small lot.
Is that your concerns about the drive-through is related to the size of the lot?
Yes, and also just its location near the residential area to the south, and the fact that it will take access then out onto Barnes, which has a tendency, I think, to put traffic through the neighborhood. So all of the above. I'm not sure it's a great site for a fast food drive-through restaurant, but having said all that, are you going to grade the site? I noticed it's kind of elevated from the street.
It will have the front on 23rd Street and on Barnes will be like a 2 or 3 foot high retaining wall. So it will be graded towards the front, but not all the way down to 23rd Street, obviously. Originally, there were 3 houses, I believe, on there, like years and years ago. That's where the grading was at originally as well.
Members of the board?
So your comments about not being able to move the building because it's a tight lot?
Right. Like, for us to be able to, like, have access for people to actually go in and out and actually not clog, like, the parking lot up, we need some sort of, like, access around it, but also it also allows us to do a drive-through.
But you've got the reason that it's set back further than what's required is because you've got this drive lane.
Correct.
What is the purpose of that drive lane?
For us to wrap the drive-through around and have enough stacking space for that, and then also to give some sort of access for people to actually come in and go around the building.
Yeah. I mean, I share Ms. Powers' concerns about the small lot size given the traffic, but I think if they didn't put that drive lane in there, you'd have a worse problem if it were sucked up to the road, because that would force the traffic onto 23rd Street. And this is a small lot, which is what makes it unique. And as I look at it, I feel like that's kind of the lesser of all the evils. I think that's what they're trying to solve by putting that drive-through lane in. I just wanted him to say it instead of me. Because of that aspect of it, I will support the application, so I'm going to move approval.
The other thing to consider is for people that want to go west after visiting this restaurant, there are a couple of stoplights there, and I couldn't tell you exactly where they're placed, but they are close. But for the neighbors, in some cases, your customers are going to turn south, go across 22nd Street to the next northbound street where they can pick up a light and more easily travel.
Right. That would be the best option if somebody really wanted to go back west. They would go back around the block. Yeah.
And I'm assuming no neighbors, nobody that was notified of this application is here to object. We have no letters of objection.
Apparently not.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve. I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 2, case number 14236. If you'll cast your votes, please. And it passes.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 14272, request of Orthopedic Associates, Inc. for a variance to the number of square footage of signs in the O2 General Office District located at 3301 Northwest 50th Street.
Would you give your name and address for the record, please?
Carolyn Mose, 3301 Northwest 50th. I'm Rachel Monson, representing Orthopedic Associates. We were here 2 weeks ago, and we've revised our application. And and wanted to resubmit it for your review. What we're asking for is to be able to, the sign statute that allows one monument sign and one building sign to be revised for us to be able to trade our monument sign for an extra building sign. And we're asking this because the existing monument sign, I think there were some photographs that we sent in this time looking from both directions as you're traveling. That's just, you really can't see it due to the traffic and the parking in the parking lot itself. So what we are asking for is for 2 building signs. One of them meets the 92 square feet. We didn't reduce it any further because we think the letters are going to be hard to read if they get too much smaller. And then the other one is the 72 square feet is what we're asking to replace the monument sign.
I was the one that objected to your application 2 weeks ago, and the monument sign is set far enough back from the street. You've got cars that park adjacent to it, and I would concur that it's ineffective. And, I've driven past that location for years and years and years and had not ever seen that monument sign until I was made aware of it in your hearing 2 weeks ago. And you did revise the sign, your signage down. I think Orthopedic Associates is
Small.
properly, and you need that. That's what's going to identify you. If there was anything that I would, wish for now is that your logo was perhaps, downsized some so that your various requests was not quite as much. But I agree that the lettering on the building, the Orthopedic Associates, is appropriate, and you do want people to be able to look up there and easily identify your location.
How big is the monument sign that's there currently? Do you know what the square footage of that is?
Unfortunately, I don't. I think it's probably like 4 foot by 10 foot.
Okay, so about approximately 40 square feet.
And it does have a sign on both sides.
Okay.
It might interest you to know, I don't know. I had asked of staff whether they would be allowed signage along Independence as well as along 50th. They don't have signage along Independence currently. They would not be permitted on their wall sign, but they would be permitted on their ground sign along Independence. So it seems to me that if they're willing to, roll all of that into this request and to be limited to the signage that they're seeking here, that's a pretty good trade.
And I applaud you. You did bring us back a revision, and it is easy for me to accept. It's still a substantial variance request, but I understand. Your monument sign is ineffective, and your signage on your building I think, is tasteful. So I'll support your application today.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 3, case number 14272. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries.
Thank you.
It's approved.
Item number 4, case number 14275, request of Sun Custom Homes for a variance to the permitted platted 40-foot building setback in the R1 single-family residential district located at 1208 Northwest 40th Street.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Jerry Hode, 1516 Northwest 148th, Edmond. We're here because we built a house at 1208 Northwest 40th. We obtained all the proper permits, inspections, even got our certificate of occupancy. It actually was the mortgage survey that caught that we were encroaching the 40-foot building line that was on the plat recorded in 1907. But we did build our house in line with every other house on the street, so that was where we kind of made our mistake. We assumed we were okay since we were in line with everybody else. So.
Yes, and it's a very nice house, too. It's a very nice house, too.
Oh, thank you.
Looks very much like it belongs where it is, which is nice. And it is in, direct alignment with every other house on the block. So this is an unfortunate kind of thing you've gotten caught in here, I think. Is there anybody else who would like to be heard on this item today? No? Members of the board?
I will make a motion to approve the application. Sorry.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 4, case number 14275. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries.
All right. Thank you very much.
Item number 5, Case number 14276, request of Rico Ford LLC for a variance to the number and distance of drives in the PUD 491 district located at 14200 Broadway Extension.
Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Mark Grubbs, Grubbs Consulting, 1819 South Morgan Road, on behalf of the applicant. The application you have before you today is the allowance for an additional driveway location and separation requirement within the PUD. The separation requirement in the PUD is 250 feet, which is not in conformance with the functional class. This classification, separation distance of that street, this PUD was written when Broadway Extension didn't have a frontage road a long time ago, and now you have a different situation. That's a frontage road, this used to be owned by Ford Motors, who carried the property as a whole, and that is Ford, Lincoln, Mercury. They could support that site. Now it's under new ownership, and it's going to be different tenants in there. The property is proposing to be split, and they don't necessarily want to share driveways. So that's why we're requesting that application, this variance, to add that drive. It'll be in conformance, like I said, with the functional classification, and I think that, you know, it really is a hardship because of the fact that it was written when Broadway Extension didn't have a frontage road there, and I could understand why the driveway allowance was put in the PUD at that time.
I have a question on the staff report. It's not clear why the access between the parcels cannot be shared. Or do you disagree with that? The parcels could be shared.
The owner of that is Rico, and they're looking, the Mercedes, Volvo, different tenants who don't necessarily, for lack of better terms, don't get along on stuff like that. They would rather have their own access point onto the frontage road. So they could close their own gates at different times and things of that nature.
So at one point, these three drives directly access Broadway Extension. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
And now you have a frontage road that you have to go around to the stoplight and then get out onto Broadway Extension. The stoplight, that at the north end, this curves around to a stoplight, and then you would be on Broadway Extension.
Is there anybody else here today who wants to be heard on this item? Members of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 5, case number 14276. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 14277, request of MA Architecture for a variance to the screening requirements of a dumpster in the DBD Downtown Business District located at 420 Northwest 5th Street. I will also add that this was approved at the DDRC this morning.
Just your name and address for the record, please.
Justin Mitchell, MA Plus Architecture, 2108 Northwest 29th Street, Oklahoma City.
And will you tell us about your item?
There's an existing dumpster that is currently on the site behind the transit facility. As you can see, the site plan, it is kind of towards the top. Well, we're working on it. It is located behind the transit facility off of Hudson. It abuts an alleyway. The dumpster is partially enclosed currently on the east side. It is fully enclosed and partially enclosed on the north and south. Patrons of the site are currently using it in an unsanitary manner, and so we are requesting a variance from the screening requirements as we are proposing to fully enclose this dumpster enclosure with ornamental metal fencing.
Before I ask anything else, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this item today? I went by and looked at this site yesterday, and the folks at the bus station were very nice. And even though I was, pulled in the wrong way and got the security people all worked up, they were very nice and came over and kind of showed me, what it was we were talking about. The location of this dumpster, if any of you had not been by to see it, it really is not visible from the street in any way. The only access to it is straight down a very narrow alleyway. So I imagine it's not the easiest dumpster in Oklahoma City to pick up and empty, but and the concerns about it have just to do with, keeping it sanitary, which seems worthwhile given that the other office buildings that also back up to this alley are really in very close proximity, have back doors that open right out onto this alley and very close to this dumpster. So,
I was going to say, our church has experience with, people that sleep around the building, and sometimes, these things happen. The one thing I would observe is when you do this too, every time they empty that dumpster, somebody is going to have to, are they going to keep it locked, unlocked? Somebody's going to have to unlock it or prepare that area for the truck to approach and empty the dumpster. The other thing too is if you take this away from the people who've been using it as an area, they're going to go somewhere. And whether they go to a neighboring business or whether they have access to the bus station, I don't know. But I mean, the issue doesn't go away. You simply move it to another place. But how would you respond to the question of access, and is it going to be convenient for the pickup service to access this thing? How are you going to coordinate that?
We designed the approach so that the truck would have enough room to open the gates and pull in and pick up the dumpster as a normal enclosed dumpster.
Will the gates be locked?
I do not. That has not been decided yet. But part of the reason we wanted to remove some of the visual screening of the dumpster is that so the staff and the patrons who are actually using the dumpster can visually check it without having to go in there ahead of time. Yeah.
I think you've more than shown the hardship, and it has been previously recommended for approval. I would move for the approval of the variance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 6, case number 14277. Would you cast your votes, please? And it passes.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 14278, request of Moore Public Schools for a variance to the use of exterior metal walls in the R4 General Residential District located at 9400 South Pennsylvania Avenue.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Abla. I'm with AGP Architects in Moore, Oklahoma, and I'm representing Moore Public Schools. As you've seen from our application, we are in the process of constructing a new gymnasium, which on the map you see there, just to the lower right of the R4 areas, in addition to the existing gymnasium. We are requesting the use of allowing us to use metal panels, architectural metal panels, on the gym, the higher portions of the gym. The lower portions are all brick veneer, burnished veneer, and as you can see from our application, we're not doing anything that makes it look like a warehouse or a barn. Or they're very nice architectural panels with reveals, and we're just requesting that you approve the use of this material.
Is there anyone here?
I don't know yet. What sort of finish will the panels have?
It is kind of like a polished bronze color, and then the panels are 4 foot by 8 foot, and then they have like a 2-inch reveal, so that they look like big blocks on the wall, but they're all the same color.
Okay. The only concern that I had about it really was just the reflectivity with respect to the proximity to the residential uses to the south. And architectural metal is just something that we, deal with in this way. We have, we don't want corrugated metal buildings, and since it's not easy to define what is and what is not, we have to go through this process. But architectural metals are being incorporated into more and more designs around the city. So, is there anyone else in the audience who wants to be heard on this item today? No? Members of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 7, case number 14278. Would you cast your votes, please?
Thank you very much.
Item number 8, case number 14279, request of Cook O2 LLC for a variance to the maximum building height in the O2 General Office District located at 1620 Southwest 122nd Street.
Is the applicant present? Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Keith Beatty, I'm with Ishii and Associates, representing the applicant today, 14848 Bristol Park Boulevard. We have a site here that was developed in the past, and it was planned for 3 buildings on the site. They put all the parking in, and in the northeast corner, they left a site for a building at that location. We actually are moving the building over a little bit farther from that location because that location didn't meet the zoning code at all. We are asking for a 15-foot variance to the 35-foot setback, and in turn, we're offering to any windows on the second story on the east side would have opaque glass. We know there's been a couple letters of protest about the residents. We are certainly concerned about the privacy of the residents. That's why we're offering up the opaque glass on the second story. And I would argue that as far as the privacy issue goes, we're offering them a better situation than if we moved the building over 15 feet and had clear glass in our second story windows.
I think the application deals with building height and not with setback.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's 35-foot setback required for the height. I guess I was looking at it that way. I guess I'm looking at it a little incorrectly. So I'm sorry, yes. It's about the height within.
You're saying, though, that the fact that the building's taller gives them more privacy?
The fact that we're agreeing to no windows on the second story with clear glass in them. Because, I mean, if we move it over, if we met the 35-foot required building line for that height, correct me if I'm wrong, JJ, but if I go to 35-foot building line, I can go 2 stories and put clear glass in there. Is that correct, JJ?
That's right.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the gesture of the opaque glass, but if we approve this variance and that height, a future use is not restricted in terms of what they do. And I'm going to side with the residents, and there may be some that wish to be heard today, but if this was my neighborhood and I lived, here, I would object.
Let's find out about that. Is there anybody else here today that wants to be heard on this item? No? I have to agree that this is sort of exactly why this ordinance was written the way it is to prevent this kind of intrusion into residential privacy. I don't see anything here that I think justifies that variance or a variance from that requirement. This is exactly the situation that it was meant to address.
And it's not only the privacy too, it's the height and the elevation as you move from, you want a more gradual transition from residential to your commercial district in terms of building height. But I think the privacy issue is certainly a valid one in the eyes of the homeowners that live adjacent to this property.
Well, I mean, in regards to the height, I mean, you sometimes have 2-story residentials next to them. I mean, where you are setting off 20 feet from the property line, which is their back property line, but our side line. So there is good separation between the homes, the existing homes, and the proposed office building. The structure of the office building will be is residential in nature, so it'll look more like a residential building than a commercial office building.
I'm inclined to not want to approve this for all the reasons that have been stated. Just to get a clarification, your proposal has been amended, or your application has been amended because you're going to be building outside of the 35-foot setback, is that what you said, and then do clear glass, or what did you...
Well, I mean, I'm saying that would be the alternative to us you know, we're trying to balance, we've got an existing site that we're trying to develop, and we're trying to balance what we have to do, certainly with the zoning code and even concerns for our neighbors. So we were trying to balance all that. I mean, you know, if we move over 35 feet, we got to do more demo. We'll have to demo the drive that's there. We'll have to move the drive to the east side of the building, so now we'll be putting a drive behind the residential structures. That's why we feel that we're offering the residents a better project than if we did move the building over.
Why can't you do it as a one-story?
The square foot they need to make this a feasible project requires it to be a two-story building.
Have you met with the neighbors?
Mr. Cook, I believe, has. Did you have an opportunity to meet with those adjoining neighbors?
I have not. I was out of town, so I did not.
Oh. I'm sorry. Mr. Cook had planned to do that, but he was out of town, didn't have an opportunity to make that happen.
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Second.
Would it help if we met with the adjoining neighbors and continued this? Could we take a 2-week continuance and meet with our neighbors?
Defer to the chair.
I don't know how to answer that question, whether it would make a difference. The consideration of intrusion into their privacy is certainly a significant one. It's not the only one. We are down a member today. You know, I don't know how to answer that question. I can't tell you that it would change the outcome.
Okay.
I always think it's a good idea to meet with the neighbors, but.
Would you like to take a continuance to meet with them and just see what the outcome comes out?
Yeah, if they can't approve it today, then we'd like to talk to the neighbors.
We would like to take a continuance so we can meet with the neighbors to see what their input would be on this. Now, what effect that would have on the board in 2 weeks, I don't know, but we would like that opportunity.
I'll withdraw my motion to deny and make a motion to continue. I don't have my calendar. The next meeting or the next available dates for him are
When is our next meeting?
November the 3rd, and the meeting after that is
December 1st.
November the 3rd or December the 1st, sir.
November 3rd, please.
Make a motion to continue this case to November the 3rd.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue item number 8, case number 14279, until the November 3rd meeting of the Board of Adjustment. Would you cast your votes, please? It is continued.
Thank you.
Item 9, case number 14280, request of Nick Faulkner for a variance to the fence material in the DBD Downtown Business District located at 21 Northwest 7th Street. I will also add that this one was approved at the DDRC this morning.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Carly Faulkner, 2612 Northwest 64th Street, Oklahoma City. Currently, we are asking for a variance for our fence around our food truck and outdoor park. We're requesting for a metal wire mesh fence, like the one you see pictured here. Although ours would not be staggered, ours would be a consistent height remaining all the way around. I believe it's like a 1 by 3 inch wire metal mesh, and we just feel like this allows you to see what's going on in the development, and it just engages the street much more better than what we figured the other
And
would.
are you committing literally to that type of fence?
Yes, so it would be basically the same, however, that one's staggered, and ours, like I said, would just be a consistent height all the way around, and then we'd like to do an off-white color like that as well.
With the material,
Yes.
the fencing materials. Is there anybody else who is here today that wants to be heard on this matter? Members of the board?
I move the approval of the variance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 9, case number 14280. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 10, case number 14281, request of the City of Oklahoma City for a variance to the maximum sign square footage and the minimum clearance of a sign with pedestrian traffic in the DBD Downtown Business District located at 100 West Reno. And this is also another one that was approved at the DDRC this morning.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Anderson, City Manager's Office, on behalf of the applicant.
Would you tell us about your application, please?
Yes, thank you. We are requesting a variance to install 2 accessory signs, one on the east side of the Chesapeake Energy Arena for patron access, ingress, and egress, which exclusively serves those patrons that are seated on the 200 level of the arena. We have 4 major entries. The one that currently receives about 60% of the utilization is the northeast entry to the arena, and currently the easternmost entrance, which you see here that services the club level, is not branded. So there's really, it's almost an anonymous entrance, and we want to bring more attention to this area to provide better guest services and identify that as the premium level entrance. That'll help us on a management side by dispersing the crowds entering the building so that we're not quite as jammed up on the northeast entrance, and get folks to use the other entrances to the facility, make it easier to get in and out, and also have more ready access to the amenities, the concessions and restrooms, et cetera, in the building, because it's kind of a pinch point right now on that main northeast entrance. Secondarily, the team store, which you're looking at now, this is the rendering, it's not the present condition. That, again, is rather an anonymous asset. The city did invest a considerable sum to build out the team store, and it's a wonderful facility, but it's actually very difficult to find, to identify whether you're in a vehicle going south on or north on Robinson, or even if you're a pedestrian walking around the arena, it's difficult to find the team store. Currently, it's only identified by window clings and a very small static sign immediately above the doors. So this is requested to give it a little bit more of a storefront and easier for individuals interested in purchasing Thunder merchandise to find out where exactly the team store is at the arena.
Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard on this item today? Members of the board?
I think it would be helpful to have the signage, and I have had a situation where I had a ticket at the club level and I couldn't figure out a way to get in. I had to ask a few folks, so I think, and it's already been previously recommended, right, for approval today by the downtown. Okay, I so move the approval of the variance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 10, case number 14281. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries.
Thank you very much.
That's the end of our items to be heard. Anybody have anything else that they want to bring up or discuss? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries. We're adjourned.